What is going on? We flipped it to the lizard position. We're live, not dead. That was going somewhere, and then I don't. Anyway, we are back for the Instant Classic Wrestling Podcast, episode number 6. It's so exciting. Episode number 6. We more than halfway to 10, which is halfway to 20, which is halfway to 40. And with basic math, you can figure out the rest. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. It's going to get real long. You just, if you're having trouble, you take a calculator, you type in 20, and then you hit the times 2.
And sometimes with the calculator usage nowadays, sometimes you might not know that math. Sometimes.
I know. I mean, you ain't even got to have a calculator because it's on your phone. It's on your phone. Anyway, let's get into the news and the rumors. I'm sure a lot of these people have already heard, but we want to talk about them anyway because that's what we do. We talk about things and stuff and things and things and stuff. Anyway, our first story, Ricochet possibly going to WWE NXT. Of course, this would be after his 90 days are up after this season of Lucha Underground. I don't know if that's 90 days from the last day they record, like the last episode, or if that's 90 days from when that last episode goes on air. I'm not really sure. Also, we added another one in here, kind of the same. Dragon Lee possibly coming to NXT. He was originally supposed to be in the Cruiserweight Classic, but unfortunately he had a knee injury, which kind of sucks. But we may possibly get Ricochet and Dragon Lee in the future, which would be pretty cool. Then we have Kairi Sane will challenge for the NXT Women's Championship at NXT TakeOver Houston, which I believe is in November, if I'm not mistaken. I know there's NXT Philadelphia coming up after that in, I think, January. So I think that's in November.
It is November 18th.
Okay. Then we have Triple H is apparently not happy that Finn Balor seems to keep being lost in the shuffle on the main roster. And because of this, he lobbied hard to have Bobby Roode and Nakamura go to SmackDown Live, where Vince McMahon isn't as hands-on, so that Triple H can kind of protect his, picked guys and stuff like that. Then this past Thursday night at the NXT tapings, Lio Rush debuted, supposed to face Aleister Black, but he was attacked from behind by Velveteen Dream, who coincidentally he formerly tagged with in Maryland Championship Wrestling, which is pretty cool. The Four Horsewomen storyline is reportedly either being dropped or postponed because Shayna Baszler has not yet signed a contract. This is also the cause of a change in the Mae Young Classic finale or final, with Shayna originally planned to win the Mae Young Classic. Unfortunately, they did change that because she hadn't signed a contract. Then WWE is reportedly planning for the next tournament in 2018 to either be another tag team tournament or, because of the popularity and success, another Mae Young Classic. Finally, Bram was reportedly pulled from an indie show because of his prior legal history, I guess. DJ can kind of explain that one a little bit more. But DJ, thoughts on the news and rumors?
Definitely with Ricochet and Dragon Lee possibly coming to WWE, it's always interesting, especially when going through that NXT circuit, and we all know how good NXT is, especially for the hardcore fans who do get a chance to watch it every single week. And having more and more talent on there is definitely great. And that's definitely something I think we'll talk about in the overreaction Friday as well when we get to that. Uh, Simply because it's I don't know, it's just one of those things. It's one of those things that we'll end up talking about because NXT is kind of, I guess, booked itself into a corner, I guess you could say. But I'm definitely excited to see how that's going to go. Definitely excited to see if they do come. How it's going, how they're going to be booked. And a lot of times these indie towns have been booked well, especially the high name ones, especially. I mean, guys like Andrade and guys like. We've seen Solomon Crow come through and CJ Parker and guys like that who are still really good. Don't always get the best end of the stick, I guess, on that regard. But definitely, I'm definitely liking it though. I'm definitely excited. Uh, Kairi Sane challenging for the NXT Women's Championship at Takeover. She's been posting a whole bunch of stuff about NXT and We Are NXT and NXT and all this stuff on her Twitter page and Instagram and everything like that. So a lot of stuff on social media, and I definitely I'm definitely excited. I want to see how that's going to go. As far as I guess it's one of those situations we got to see who's going to be the champion when she challenges for it, or is it still going to be vacant by then? You would expect the title not to be vacant for another 2 months before someone challenges for it, but you never know. There's a lot of ways they could spin a storyline for that to happen. I think it would make more sense, to be honest, if it was vacant. Uh, just from not really knowing much about any of the spoilers or anything, to me it would make a lot more sense for it to be vacant, just because it'll make it feel like it could go either way depending on what kind of match they do for the title. Triple H not being happy that Finn Balor is kind of getting lost in the shuffle on Raw, so that's why Rude and Nakamura are on SmackDown Live. I definitely think once again we've talked about this before when it comes to the brand split and them potentially giving up on the brand split. This is why the brand split is kind of a good thing as well. Because if you think Finn Balor's getting lost in the shuffle now, imagine how it would be with if you combine the rosters. So I think that's one thing about the brand split that has really paid dividends is you can send these guys to SmackDown Live and them still be able to be noticed and still be able to be seen and have Finn Balor on Raw doing what he does as well. So I definitely think I like that Triple H is still heavily involved backstage, kind of helping his guys get some room to work on the main roster because we've seen issues with the main roster, especially when it comes to NXT talents. But recently, it's they've done a pretty good job when the guy, especially when the guy was a star elsewhere. They've done a really good job with him. The irony of Leo Rush being attacked by Velveteen Dream, I just think that was it was kind of funny. Hearing about it, I definitely thought it was kind of funny. I love Leo Rush; he's one of my favorites. So I'm definitely excited to see. I'm definitely excited to see how that's gonna go, and if they're gonna bring that to TV because it wasn't a live show. So if they're gonna bring that to TV or was it a taping,
It was
Casey?
taping, yeah.
Was it taping? Okay, cool. So I'm definitely excited because finally, too, Velveteen Dream will get a chance to be in an actual storyline which may lead him to being on a takeover soon. So I'm excited about that. The Four Horsewomen storyline reportedly pulled because of Shayna not winning. I mean, not uh, getting not having a contract right now, and that also affecting what happened with the Mae Young Classic. I definitely think it's. I guess it's one of those things where you got to get your ducks in a row if you're WWE. You got to figure. You don't want to put this out there, even though I know it can draw and I know it would be a good idea. I guess you don't want to put this out there too much and then it not happen. It's one of those things where I talk about Chekhov's gun a lot of times where you can't tease this and then have it not happen. You can't tease something this big and have it not happen. You can't put a table outside the ring and not use it. It's not it's not how it works. So this is kind of one of those scenarios where they got to figure out what they want to do. They don't want to push this too hard and then it end up being pulled and no one really realized why it was being pulled. So I think I definitely like that they're being smart on this. I feel like the next one, WWE reportedly playing their next tournament. I'm definitely excited. I've loved all of these tournaments that they've had. They should reportedly plan a dang on King of the Ring and make it how they've been doing these other tournaments instead of being dumb. But that's that's just me thinking here. I definitely think that should happen. They should definitely do a King of the Ring and make that back to what it used to be. And then lastly, Bram being pulled from any show due to kind of past legal issues. From what I read, it was kind of him being accused of domestic violence. I think it was domestic assault, and what was it? I can't remember right offhand what the other charge was, but I definitely, and he was actually the charges were dropped, but it comes back to the thing we always, and then this happens in society a lot. If someone is accused of domestic violence or sexual assault or anything like that, a lot of times that stays with them. And I think it's unfortunate for Bram, even if the charges are dropped, is what I'm saying. And I think that it's unfortunate for Bram, considering he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything wrong. And it's kind of hurting his career right now as far as making money elsewhere, because I think he has been injured, and that's why he hasn't been on GFW as much. But there's a lot of news this week. It's been a pretty newsworthy week, I guess you could say.
I thought the Four Horsemen woman thing with Shayna was kind of ironic because that's kind of the same thing that happened with Kota Ibushi, because they were originally had plans for him, but he never signed. He declined to sign a contract during the Cruiserweight Classic, and he was originally supposed to win it, but they changed the plans because he declined to actually sign a contract. So it's kind of similar with Shayna.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's one of those things where I'm glad WWE is being smart about it, because I know everybody like the fans are probably like, oh, why didn't blah 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 win? And that's a booking mistake by them, but you also got to look out for yourself too. If you're a company, you can't be putting someone in the spotlight and then they don't even want to be with you. They want to be around you.
True. Moving on to DJ's top 5 botches and funny moments. Well, ours, but DJ's doing the segment.
All righty. I know I was a little late on the graphic on the other one, so everybody ignore that. Act like it didn't happen. But top 5 funny moments / botches of the week. We're starting off with the Roman Reigns and John Cena promo. I feel like this is gonna make the list a whole lot because it is kind of, I think I like their banter back and forth. Definitely, it's one of those things where I think Casey had mentioned they're kind of burying Reigns, unfortunately. Unfortunately for me, because I'm a big Reigns fan, but they're actually burying Reigns as well, in this, because obviously Cena's one of the best when it comes to promos. And I think I wouldn't even necessarily say Reigns is bad. I just think they're not letting Reigns cut loose. Like I don't know how you feel about it, and I guess we can kind of go back and forth on these if you want to, if you have any thoughts on them. But I really feel like I don't know if they're actually letting Reigns cut loose any. They're letting him say a couple of words, hit a couple shots, but I don't know if they're really letting him cut loose though. It's it kind of still feels like it feels less scripted, but it kind of still feels scripted at the same time.
I mean, to me, it feels really scripted because you think about it, Reigns will get a good, something on, John Cena, and the fans will react to it. And then Cena comes back with something 10 times better that basically buries what Reigns just said. And it's
oddly enough, I felt like Cena's stuff has felt more scripted than Reigns has. It's just weird the way he's, I guess the way he's talking.
And I think they're doing it that way specifically. They're writing out this promo and having Cena sound so good, and then a guy that they should be pushing and should be getting behind, reason it doesn't make any sense. And I'm still not the biggest Roman Reigns fan, but he has potential, and I want to see him actually booked and given a personality, and see what he can do, because at the end of the day, we say this all the time, and I don't really hate John Cena anymore, but at the end of the day, he's not going to be there forever. You need to book your future. You need to start pushing your future stars. It's yeah.
Yeah, I definitely can agree with that. The next one we have is Braun. Braun Strowman basically killing Lesnar with no use of any foreign objects at all, versus Braun Strowman killing Cena and having to use the steps to do it. It kind of makes Braun. It makes Braun come off a little bit weak. I think more so it makes Lesnar come off weak, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes Lesnar come off looking weak because he just gets killed just because Braun steps into the ring, and then Cena has to you have to take the steps out on him and everything. But I don't know. It definitely think that kind. I was surprised. Like I felt like I think that's the only solace I can take in this is I was surprised that Brock Lesnar got beat up like that. And it kind of makes you think that Brock Lesnar's obviously going to retain at the pay-per-view, though. He's gotten beat up before, so I don't know. It's kind of weird because I feel like they do this all the time with Brock. Like he gets to a point where he's like just unstoppable, and someone just kicks the crap out of him. And like I don't necessarily like I think it's good for Braun. Like it makes him look that much stronger and that much more of a monster among men. To come out there and beat up Brock Lesnar like that. But I think Brock should still have some sort of fight in it. Like it was kind of weird that Brock had no fight in it at all. Braun basically just popped up out of his doggone just basically no sold his suplex, which is fine, but you still gotta like give him a chance, I feel like. But the next one is
are we going back to this man?
Yeah, sure.
I thought that's what we were doing. So. But my thing was more on Braun Strowman because I didn't have a problem that he completely destroyed Lesnar. I think that's a good way to build him up and push that he's a monster and he's unstoppable. Will Lesnar be able to retain? Will you then have Lesnar go up against Cena, and even if he didn't necessarily have to use the steel steps, I don't think he should have. I think he should just basically bowl through everybody single-handedly without any foreign objects, just himself, just build up even more that he's a monster. He went through Lesnar, he went through Cena. Who's going to be able to stop him? I think the fact that he used the stairs kind of makes that push look a little bit weak and makes Lesnar look weak to me personally. I think, like I said, they should have had him just bowl through everybody and new unstoppable force. Personally, I don't know.
I definitely agree with that, and that's what I was saying. I definitely thought it made him look strong. Like he looked really strong, like just killing Lesnar.
Yeah.
And I think too, it wasn't one of those situations where like Lesnar was so hot and he got beat up by somebody like Triple H or something. Like we all remember that debacle. Next we got Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins looking at contemplating Jamie Noble and Dean Malenko as tag team partners. This whole segment was funny. I thought I felt like this whole entire segment was really funny. I really liked it. I laughed out loud a lot. Them going to those two guys who were just kind of sitting back there. I definitely thought it was funny. And then another one, kind of additionally with this one, was J&J Security breaking up Rollins' brawl. Breaking up a brawl with Rollins was just ironic to me. I definitely thought it was funny. Casey, thoughts on? Jamie Noble was everywhere in this whole thing. Like he was everywhere.
He is. I thought it was more so Ambrose because Rollins was just kind of following around like this isn't a good idea. No, but trying to get Jamie Noble and Dean Malenko to be their tag team partners. I thought it was funny because you saw Dean Malenko kind of being like, okay. And then Ambrose like, nah. And then he moves on to the Hardys. Security breaking up a brawl with Rollins. I just think it's ironic, and I laugh a little bit anytime I see Rollins and either member of J&J Security. Anytime we see them together, it's kind of funny, just the past. Definitely two funny segments kind of together.
Alrighty, the next one we got is Enzo Amore on Miz TV. Their entire thing, I think this could even be put in an instant classic moment. It was funny. It was definitely funny, but I think it was also really good. Like the Miz continuing to prove that he can stay up there with anybody when it comes to the microphone, which I like. And Enzo was funny as well. I like Enzo's "Who's Your Daddy," and also them in the match as well, kind of going back and forth. I like Enzo's "Who's Your Daddy" thing. That was hilarious, and Miz having a baby as well coming up soon. So that's gonna be. I think I don't. He said a couple months, so I guess Maurice is already like kind of halfway through. I'm assuming. They didn't really say how far she was along, but she didn't really look like she was that too far along. But in certain people it doesn't necessarily show. So I don't know. Casey, thoughts on Enzo and the Miz and the TV?
I thought this was funny. I kind of had, I thought all three kind of things came in this, all three aspects. I thought it was funny. I thought it was a little bit of a botch, and also the instant classic moment too, because obviously the segment was funny with Enzo and on Miz TV with the Miz. And, the Miz did make some good points about, how he used to be kind of like like Enzo. People thought he was annoying, and, he needs to, look at himself in the mirror and kind of, figure himself out, kind of a thing. But also I felt like it kind of a little bit buried Enzo, and I feel like they keep trying to do this, and it's like, why? I get that he has backstage heat, but putting him on 205 Live, even with his lack of in-ring talent, is a good thing. It helps with the kind of blandness that people say the 205 Live has, because a lot of those guys are more known for their work rate than their characters and things like that. He brings the character to 205 Live. So yeah, I thought it was in general a good segment. I liked it.
Alrighty. The next one and last one that we have is Byron Saxton and Tom Phillips potentially being forced to be the same person in one big old suit. Kevin Owens is he makes some changes, which I think Kevin Owens like all night was pretty funny. But Kevin Owens potentially making some changes to SmackDown Live. Going to call it the Kevin Owens Show once he wins the lawsuit against the McMahons. And I definitely thought this was funny. He said he's going to put Byron Saxton and Tom Phillips in the same suit just because they're basically the same person. And I definitely thought that was funny. I liked him the entire night, though. Casey, thoughts on that before we get into the top 5 instant classic moments of the week?
Yeah, I thought this was hilarious, saying that Byron Saxton and Tom Phillips would have to wear the same suit, and not matching suits, the same suit. Part of me was like, please tease him getting control so they have to do that, at least for half of a show. That'd be hilarious. I personally would love that, but definitely a good segment there. Moving on to the top 5 instant classic moments of the week. There we go. Finally, it's it's so hard to get good help these days. It is. The first instant classic moment of the week we have was Braun popping right back up after Lesnar delivered the German suplex. Like, nah, bruh, not today. I marked out a little bit. Although it makes me feel like Lesnar is obviously gonna, win at No Mercy with how strong they're booking Braun against him. It just, I don't know. It scares me a little bit that, he might retain. But then we have Rollins teaming with the Hardys, which I thought was awesome. Then we have the Sin City Street Fight. I thought it was really good. Some really good spots in there, especially for one of those gimmick matches that they do. Actually, I thought this one was pretty good. Vince McMahon and Kevin Owens segments. I loved this. Vince McMahon taking that headbutt and bleeding the hard way. I thought that was amazing. And then I don't know if you caught this, but after the segment, one of the fans was like, "Call the president and have Owens deported."
I did see that.
I was like, bruh, this man. And then the Connor's Cure commercial was definitely really good. DJ?
Yeah, I definitely. What? What?
I forgot to go back and forth. My bad.
This struggle. But yeah, I love the Connor's Cure commercial. I thought it was amazing. Probably the best moment of the week. I think they played it last week as well, but it was so freaking cute. It was the cutest commercial ever in life. Braun Strowman no selling Lesnar suplex. Yeah. Yeah, it was really awesome, and like I love the pop and everything. It was great. Just overall, it was a really good moment for Braun and Brock's reaction. Also, I thought Brock's reaction was funny and I don't know if it was the camera still on him or what was happening. I don't know why it happened, but it was funny when Braun Strowman was coming out. Brock Lesnar looked like he was shocked, like he wasn't expecting it, but it was still like halfway through his entrance. I just thought that it was weird. Ambrose and Rollins team with the Hardys, definitely, always a cool moment. I didn't get a chance to watch the 8-man tag team match, but I'm sure it was. I mean, I'm assuming it was pretty good.
It was pretty good.
Okay. The Sin City Street Fight was really good. I liked it. I'm surprised the New Day won the titles. This goes into an Overreaction Friday as well. Like, it's just unfortunate to a certain degree because I feel like it's fine to change titles on the weekly shows sometimes, but it's just become way too common. I feel like in WWE, and I think that's the only thing I didn't like about it. I thought it was a good match, but I feel like the Usos got to find a way to win that. And then because they don't have pay for a while, but still, I would say a while, but I think it's just like a month or something. So I don't know. It's just weird to me. And then the Vince McMahon Kevin Owens segment was awesome. Kevin Owens was on point all night anyway, but the Vince McMahon Kevin Owens segment was really good. I love, like you said, Kevin Owens hitting the headbutt on Vince McMahon and him bleeding and just kind of continuing his attack, regardless of there was some, the guy that was there that was kind of trying to shoo him off. The interaction with Stephanie was cool too, like just him not saying anything, just him just giving her that look like I just don't care right now. I think that this has been one of the best kind of authority versus, and it hasn't, it started, but like I don't even know if it's reached its peak yet, but like it's been really good. Like I feel like this authority versus superstar storyline has been one of the best we've seen in a while.
I think that's also because it hasn't been shoved down our throat like the authority, storylines usually are,
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on to DJ.
Oh, I thought you was gonna say it and then be like, with your host, dude. No.
No, it was.
I
was trying to segue and like be a team. Like I started saying it, you finish.
No. I thought you was gonna help me out. Anyway, Overreaction Friday.
I started it and then you didn't finish it.
I finished it. I just finished it late. But Overreaction Friday. Let's jump into some overreactions or not overreactions, depending on your perspective of the sport of pro wrestling. We're gonna start off This one given to me by KC. Ricochet winning the Battle of Los Angeles twice and being the only one to do it is absolutely ridiculous. It's an outrage, and I'm mad about it. I think this is an overreaction, people. I think it's an. I mean, you got two options. You got overreaction, not overreaction. It's up to you. But I think this is an overreaction. This man got talent out the wazoo. What is the wazoo? Has anybody ever really defined the wazoo?
I think it's the
anyway. The booty. But I definitely think this is an overreaction because somebody's got to win it twice. So, eventually it's going to happen. Like I don't know. I just think it's dumb that people are like, oh, no, I didn't watch the Battle of Los Angeles, but still, I think it's one of those. And I apologize in advance. I do. But I definitely think it's just dumb that people are outraged about this. Eventually, it's got to happen. First off, and if there's anybody you would want to do it, I feel like it would be Ricochet, in my opinion, especially all he does at PWG. Now, I don't know if he's like the hardest working man as far as wrestler is concerned for PWG, but still. Anyway. Yeah. Casey, Ricochet, winner. That's something wrong.
No, I'm looking at the who was in the Battle of Los Angeles right now. Is it my turn though?
Set this up for you, Casey. Ricochet winning the Battle of Los Angeles twice. I can't say battle. It's too many words. And being the only one, it's ridiculous, man. It's an outrage. Overreaction, not overreaction.
This definitely overreaction. This a huge. I mean, first of all, people like always rave about, oh, you know, Ricochet is so great. He can do anything. He's one of the best wrestlers in the world. But then as soon as he wins Battles of Los Angeles twice, like, oh God, no. And honestly, looking through who was in the Battle of Los Angeles, I don't really see anybody that jumps out at me other than anyone else to win it, really. I mean, Donovan Dijak is, you know, just signed with WWE, so I don't think they would have had it. Maybe. Zack Sabre Jr. has already won it before and doesn't really need to, I think. Marty Scurll, I believe, won it last year. There's no one else really that jumps out at me to win it.
Cage?
What?
Cage? Brian Cage, question mark?
I don't know.
Sami Callihan, question mark?
He's good. Yeah. I don't know.
Trevor Lee.
But yeah, I don't. It's, to me, it's overreaction. Wrestling fans are just weird sometimes.
Oh, we know that. we know that.
We are a weird breed. We are just.
We know that far. You can't please them, man. You can't. That's why I feel like wrestling is the hardest thing to write. Like, as much as we say it's easy, it's the hardest thing to write because you can't please the entire sect of fans. There's too many, and they're too different.
Right.
All right, my next one is, and I'm going with it, dang on it. The Miz is one of the greatest, and I mean greatest, Intercontinental champions. Now, you can't overreact to me saying greatest, because I said one of. I'm not saying he's the greatest ever. I'm saying he's one of. I'd venture to say top 5, right? Maybe top 10 at worst. This is not an overreaction, dang on it. My goodness, we can't, as a wrestling fan base, as a wrestling society, we can't continue to overlook everyone that's wrestling right now and say, oh, they're not the greatest, they all suck. And that happens in every single sport. Every single sport. We can't get over the past, and we can't even find some way to consider that this guy might be the greatest or one of the greatest. We just won't allow it. This is not an overreaction. This is a guy who came in, took this title that we said was irrelevant and not important anymore, and not prestigious, and made it that much more prestigious. Made it prestigious again. I cannot say this is an overreaction. I didn't say the greatest. I said one of the greatest. I said one of the greatest. Casey, The Miz is one of the greatest IC champs of all time. Overreaction or not an overreaction? You got two choices.
Choose
one.
I'm gonna go with C.
All of the above.
I'm gonna go. Okay, not an overreaction on a technicality, and this is technically nothing against the Miz himself. This is against the. If you think about it, if you look up a list of whoever the greatest Intercontinental champions of all time, the majority of them are going to be in that period, like early 90s, the 80s, whatever, when the Intercontinental title still had that prestige, when it was still recognized by everybody as the second title, or sometimes even bigger than the world title. So I'm gonna say I say technicality because it hasn't been that prestigious, so he kind of, in a way, yes, he's great with the title, I'm not going to take that away from him, but he had a little bit of a crutch because before him the prestige of that title was dead. It was just dead. So anybody really who took that title and tried to make it prestigious, I think would have made it prestigious. I think nobody really cared that much to kind of try to make it. I think the closest one before the Miz was Cody Rhodes.
I guess my argument now back to you is, you want to put the asterisk beside it, but I mean, the NWA title ain't nowhere near where it was. Ain't nobody even there ain't nobody that's came through that's made that title feel any more important, or attempted to put it on a platform to make it any more important.
Bro, do you understand how dead the NWA is right now?
I'm just saying. I'm just throwing out the argument.
That's like saying the WCW title doesn't have prestige anymore. Bruh, the company been at it, like, bruh.
I mean, but it ain't technically out of business now, is it?
It is. I mean NWA no, but it's so dead right now. Like, the majority of wrestling fans don't even know the NWA still exists as a organization.
I mean, yeah, it's you would forget.
I mean,
it's that bad.
I'm not saying that's a good thing. I think it should still be, prestigious. But the sad fact is, and it probably goes back to the territory days when WWE took everything. I mean, it's had its kind of NWA has had its little peaks here and there. I think the biggest being back when they were kind of still working with TNA. I think after that it kind of they fell by the wayside a little bit. And I know we'll probably get heat on that, like, oh, you don't know, blah blah, you don't know they records, and but yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna say yes, but I'm keeping that asterisk there. I'm keeping it.
Okay. You just don't want to say nothing controversial. That's all that is. Anyway, we're gonna move on.
It is kind of controversial by putting an asterisk there. People be like, you hate the Miz.
Nah, I feel like that's you playing softball. We playing baseball out here. Excuse my softball players out there, because I do love softball. One of my favorite sports. Anyway, next one we got is fans don't watch they just criticize. This is not an overreaction. That's all fans do. They just don't. They don't take the time. And we talk about this with GFW Impact, you know, IE TNA all the time. It's one of those things where they don't sit down to watch the product; they just criticize it, and then they want to come back and say, "Oh, it's the production value that makes me not want to watch it." Well, Ring of Honor doesn't have the greatest production value in the world, but you sit down and you watch it like it's the greatest thing you've ever seen in your life. So it doesn't make a difference to you. Why does it make a difference when it's TNA, for example? But then again, that's a whole nother argument for another day. But I feel like this, even when you take the production value argument out of this and you say, hey, WWE, Raw sucks, SmackDown's terrible, NXT's not as good as it was, whatever. Did you watch it though? Because I mean, and this is the first time I watched Raw in a couple weeks, like a month. I feel like it's been a while since I've been able to actually sit down and watch Raw. And I watched Raw and I watched SmackDown, and I actually enjoyed it more. I actually enjoyed Raw more than I enjoyed SmackDown. And when I sat down, I watched it, and I just kind of let myself just be in that moment and watched, the segments. I even watched the matches for once. I did. I even watched the doggone matches, and I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. I actually was having a good time watching it today. Is when I finally got a chance to watch it. So I definitely think fans not watching and just criticizing is definitely not an overreaction. Casey, fans don't watch; they just criticize.
This is not an overreaction, and DJ and I have to admit we've done this too at times with SmackDown and Raw. But I agree with him. I watched SmackDown and Raw this week, and I really enjoyed them. I thought they were really good, and it goes back to, again, like he said, Impact, TNA, GFW, whatever. People criticize it so much, don't even watch it, and then they complain, oh, the production value sucks, blah blah blah. First of all, a lot of these fans also go to indie shows that are in high school gymnasiums or whatever, wherever they're having.
Or they watch PWG, which isn't the greatest production value, but they do put on good matches. But I don't allow, and that's the thing, I don't allow the quote production value to take away from the show, because I know I'm watching a wrestling show for wrestling.
But yeah, they're saying they go to those shows and they say, oh, those shows are awesome, but they have next to no production value. But then they complain that a show like GFW doesn't have a great production value. So what you're saying is, when you watch Raw or SmackDown, you're paying attention to, the lights and the stage and the ring. You're not actually paying attention to the match.
And we know that's not true, because all people complain about on Raw is the doggone, there's not enough wrestling.
It's like, how can you complain that there's not enough wrestling when you're clearly paying attention to the production value? Like, people's arguments are ridiculous and contradict themselves. It's so crazy. But yeah, definitely not an overreaction. Not at all.
All right. Well, let's jump into the next one. We got two more. We got Brock Lesnar being away from TV, not wrestling as many matches. It's great for building his storylines, and I'd even say storylines in general. I'm definitely going to say this is not an overreaction. We talk about it all the time. We hate that we get the same matches over and over and over again, and that's honestly one of the things that makes Raw and SmackDown not as watchable, is that we get these same matches all the time. Now, as much as we complain about Brock Lesnar being away and how we're mad that he has the Universal title and all of this, it has made for his matches on pay-per-view to actually be really good because he's only having one match every 3 to 4 months. And I'm not saying that's the staple for a great storyline or building a great storyline, but it is a staple for to do wrestle every single week. You don't have to put them in a match every single week. And if you do, don't put them in a match with the same guy that they're feuding with every single week, because then we have nothing to look forward to when it comes to the pay per view. We've already seen the match 3 times. If you look at it, for example, you know, like we said, the Sin City Street Fight, it was great. The Sin City Street Fight was great. It was a great match. The Usos versus the New Day. It's always going to be a great match. But if you keep giving it to us every single week, then what in the heck do we have to look forward to when it comes to the pay per view? Not a lot. So Brock Lesnar is kind of helping everyone because now when Brock Lesnar shows up on TV, we're kind of excited about it. When Brock Lesnar has a match with Braun Strowman, we're kind of excited about it because we haven't seen Brock Lesnar in 2 months, which it hasn't been. It's been a little bit less than that now, but like usually, you haven't seen Brock Lesnar, so now you want to see. You want to see what he can do. You want to see what he's gonna do. You want to see what kind of crazy stuff he's gonna do. Is he gonna get beat up? Whatever. This is definitely not an overreaction. Casey, Brock Lesnar being away from TV, from matches, is great for building his storylines. Overreaction or not an overreaction?
Not an overreaction. I am gonna kind of change it a little bit just to in general overexposure, because, like you said, with the New Day and the Usos and anybody, when you have the same matches every week, the same people, it just what more can they do in the next match that we didn't see in the match before? It goes back to, and we've made this argument many times. It goes back to kind of even back in the 90s, the 80s. You wouldn't, the early 90s and the 80s and stuff like that. You wouldn't necessarily see the WWF champion in a match, every week. You might see him once a month, maybe, and that was fine because it built it up, and then when you get into like the 90s, the Attitude Era, you would see guys in feuds, but they wouldn't be facing the person they're in a feud with every week. They would have other matches. So you still saw them, but you wouldn't see them against that opponent every single week. So it wouldn't water it down to a point where it's like, okay, what are they going to do next that we haven't already seen? It kills kind of the storylines and everything. It kills the buildup. They need to keep these guys off TV. And then that also gives other guys a chance to be seen, like we've said before, when, Lesnar's out, or if Jinder Mahal was out, for a while, give it a chance to, have the IC title in the main event, build that as a big storyline, have the US title in the main event, build that up to be a big story, in other divisions and other titles and things like that. Spread the wealth a little bit. Don't just shove the same storyline down our throat week after week after week after week, because then we don't care about it anymore.
All right. Well, the last Overreaction Friday for this week is going to be WWE has booked themselves into a corner with the phenomenon known as NXT. I definitely think this is not an overreaction. I feel like WWE has definitely booked themselves into a corner with NXT. And you could say in multiple ways. Mainly, what I've noticed recently is not being able to see the homegrown talent anymore because WWE is signing all these big name indie guys or big name guys from, GFW, or big name guys from Ring of Honor, or big name guys from New Japan. And we're not being able to see, some of WWE's homegrown talent. For example, Liv Morgan, who I feel like they would push for a little bit and then they would pull it to the side because Ruby Riott came in, because Nikki Cross came in, because Ember Moon came in. and like Aaliyah as well. These other girls who I've definitely noticed it with the women's division recently, but I definitely think they have, and I don't know. I think they've also booked themselves in the corner of NXT when it comes to kind of the show is really good, but also kind of the differences in the crowds between NXT and the main roster. So it kind of hurts those characters when they come up as well. Having them instead, they should maybe even have NXT in front of a bigger crowd because they every single week because they probably could do it. So then more people would see would be exposed to the NXT talent. So then when they go to the main roster, it may not be as hard of a transition for them to make. Casey, WWE has booked themselves into a corner with NXT. Overreaction or not an overreaction?
I would say not an overreaction to an extent. I mean, obviously we can't deny that we get excited when they sign all these, indie talent that we love, and know about. But it does kind of, kill the sort of homegrown talent there, doesn't give them a chance to kind of be pushed. But I think with so many people being signed recently, even in the past year, it even kills the big stars because there's so many, coming in that, you can't push them all, I mean, there's too many. You need to, sign a few here, push your homegrown talent, and then eventually have them go up to the main roster, then bring a couple more in. It's just, I feel like they're bringing too many in at a time, which again, we get excited about, but then it kills the pushes and it kills the build up and everything. Them going to the main roster, I do think that the main roster kind of kills the talent and the work that NXT has done. And I don't necessarily think it's necessarily a big crowd issue, like a bigger crowd issue. I think it's WWE just isn't booking them well when they get to the main roster. Look at the Ascension. Look how good the Ascension was in NXT. And then as soon as they got up to the main roster, they just tried to make them a Road Warriors ripoff. If they just kept them the way they were on NXT, I think the fans would have gotten behind them, booked them the same way. It's when Vince gets a hold of them, he doesn't know what to do with them because he doesn't understand NXT. He doesn't understand trying to do down there. He doesn't understand the indie, side of things, which is why, Triple H did lobby so hard to get Nakamura and Bobby Roode on SmackDown Live, where Vince isn't as hands-on. So I think a lot of it is just a booking issue with Raw, more specifically because that Vince has the bigger hand in Raw, and he doesn't understand NXT, and he doesn't understand the gimmicks there and the storylines there, and he can't bring them over to the main roster, right? So yeah, I would say, not an overreaction.
That is it for Overreaction Friday. I guess we can move on to the weekly booking challenge.
Oh yes, we can move on to the weekly booking challenge. This week, 5 matches featuring women from the Mae Young Classic. So this can be any kind of match you want, as long as it has at least one person from the Mae Young Classic. It can be anybody from the Mae Young Classic versus anybody on the main roster, anybody else in the Mae Young Classic. If there was a match that you wanted to see that didn't necessarily happen. Let me go through mine. I do have one honorable mention. It's Shayna versus everybody, like anybody. Shayna versus Asuka. Shayna versus, Ember Moon. Shayna versus Brock Lesnar. Anybody. But anyway, my first official match that I would book would be Jazzy Gabbert versus Mercedes Martinez. I think that would be a really good match, really hard hitting, kind of powerhouses. I think that'd be a great match. Then I would have a fatal four-way with Candice LeRae, Sasha Banks, Ruby Riott, and Tessa Blanchard. Really talented women in WWE. I think they could put on an amazing match as long as Sasha don't do the suicide dive where she scorpions herself. Then we'd be fine. Then I have Mia Yim versus Paige. I think that would be a really good match. I think they could, work together really well. Then a triple threat with Shayna Baszler versus Asuka versus Ember Moon. Again, just an awesome match. I think that would be. We've seen really good matches with Asuka and Ember Moon. You throw Shayna in there, I think it would be awesome. And then finally, another triple threat match. I got Piper Niven versus Bayley versus Becky Lynch. I think those three would put on a really entertaining match. Piper and Bayley kind of see their, personalities together. But those are my 5 matches that I would book. DJ.
Now, I might have misunderstood you a little bit. Didn't realize we could use the main roster people. So I kind of just used people from the Mae Young Classic, some matches I would like to see. And this is probably based off if they would have did a finale again and did a whole doggone show instead of one doggone match.
True.
So this will help them out on a potential finale if they want to redo it, because it should. Santana Garrett versus Candice LeRae, because it'd just be amazing. Like I just have no explanation. It would be amazing. Santana Garrett is one of the best in the world, period. Okay, what anybody says. Love that girl. And Candice LeRae in the same breath. So definitely could be a #1 contender style match or something, And then I got Mia Yim versus Sarah Logan versus Santana Garrett. Santana Garrett gonna be on all of these. I'm just saying. No, not really. But I really liked Sarah Logan a lot, and I was a fan of her versus Mia Yim, and I wanted to add Santana Garrett in there as well, because I feel like Santana Garrett can always add to any match that she's in. Then we got Dakota Kai versus Rachel Evers. I'm a huge fan of Rachel Evers. Obviously, I love Dakota Kai, and I think this could be an interesting match with Dakota being very small, but Rachel using that strength that she has. My 4th one is Piper Niven versus Bianca Belair. Really, really, really like Bianca Belair so much. And I kind of want to see kind of that serious, like, smash mouth nature of Bianca Belair going up against kind of the playful Piper Niven. And also, she's kind of a powerhouse too. She has that power as well. She's a very strong woman. So I kind of want to see, how they would play that as far as, playing it up on commentary, and how she would kind of try to overcome, the obstacle of Piper Niven's size. And then lastly, I got Shayna Baszler versus Mercedes Martinez versus Jazzy Gabbert. Just put the 3 biggest and toughest people in one match. That's WWE Logic 101. Like, that's how you make them happy. So I think this would be really good. Obviously, Shayna Baszler versus Mercedes Martinez was really good. And I feel like, unfortunately, we didn't get to see as much of Jazzy Gabbert as we did, even though she was over AF at the road to the finals thing that they did. So I definitely think this would be an interesting match as far as like a power match. If they booked it anywhere similar to, or a power kind of toughness type of match, they booked it anywhere similar to that Fatal 4-Way, it would be awesome. They should do
it. All right. Next week, we are booking the vacant NXT Women's Championship, how we would book it. So how you would basically book, crowning the new NXT Women's Championship, whether you would have a tournament, whether you would have one match, however you would book it to get to the next NXT Women's Champion. So that'll be next week. So excited for that one. And let's move on to next week's hype, bro.
Yeah. Next week's hype, bro. You know it, bro. Next week's hype, bro. What we're excited for coming up in the coming week. Did it change? Okay, I was making sure. For some reason, it was still showing the other one. I was like, what's going on? Why ain't stuff changing? But definitely excited for the aftermath of the Kevin Owens versus the McMahons. I just think that's exciting. With Kevin Owens to see what they're gonna do. Are they gonna suspend him? Are they gonna reprimand him? Are they gonna fire him? Like, what's gonna happen? How it's gonna play out? Is Shane gonna come back next week? Or I guess it's kind of one of those things. Like, how is it gonna go? And the fallout from Lashley and and GFW, with Lashley saying he might be leaving GFW, as far as that's what the storyline is saying here, and kind of how that's gonna go and where it's gonna go and in what direction, because is he going to leave for a fight? Is he going to leave for good? Is he going to leave for, we don't really know what's going to happen there. So, Casey, is that what you're excited for, or is that just what I'm excited for?
I'm also excited about those two things. Definitely excited about the fallout of Owens McMahon. I want to see what they do next week. Part of me kind of wants to see more, and this is weird of me to say, because we got so annoyed with the Stephanie Triple H authority figure line, role storyline. I kind of want to see Stephanie in more of a role there too, because obviously it's her dad too. It's Shane's dad as well. I kind of want to see her, angry at Kevin Owens. I think that would be interesting. And I feel like they have to bring her back somehow. They showed her last week. They can't just ignore that she was there this coming week. So I'm excited for that. Also, definitely excited for kind of the fallout of the Lashley and American Top Team attack at the end of GFW. I think he'll be there at least until what's the next Victory Road is in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I think he'll be there at least until Victory Road. Maybe they'll have like a match that kind of sends him off a little bit, because he is getting ready for another fight. So I think he'll at least be there till then. So I'm excited for that, to see kind of how they do that, and just the fallout from the attack. Because until now, it was more of just America's Top Team kind of attacking random people, and Lashley just kind of being there, not really, attacking with them, and not really, reprimanding them either. But on the attack this past week, we saw him, in on the attack too at the end. So I'm curious to see, what they do with that, and kind of how Jim Cornette. I hate that man so much, but I kind of like him in this storyline. It's weird. It's so weird. It hurts. But yeah, I think that's it. That is it for episode 6 of the Instant Classic Wrestling Podcast. Definitely excited for next week's. We definitely like doing this show. So we will be back for that next week. The next thing we have, I think, is NXT. It's weird not having the Mae Young Classic again.
Yeah.
It's like I'm expecting something for like Monday or Tuesday, and it's like, no, when? So yeah, next thing will be NXT, and then TNA, and then next week's episode 7 of the Instant Classic Wrestling Podcast. I'm sure we'll maybe have something else in there. I know we have a bunch of discussions and debates we want to do, so maybe we'll do one or two of them this week just to kind of fill the time. Um, but as usual, follow us on Twitter at ICW_podcast. Like the video, share it on YouTube, and if you're watching on Facebook Live, share it on there too on Facebook. Leave your comments on any of the segments, and all that fun stuff. And we will see you on the flippity dippity. Yes, sir.